Welcome to another episode of Based and Unchained. I am Morpheus, aka the Bass Pluto. Now, today's topic will be on gaslighting, and from my personal experiences over the years, I found that pretty much people don't try to make sure that you understand certain things, but make sure that you abide to the culture around you, even when they're entirely wrong. The thing is that reality itself can be very, very painful, but it's also a lottery in its own right. So when you do not, fall in line accordingly, then actual people that do normally fall in line, who are socially approved, will gaslight you. And it can be from romantic to even non-romantic gaslighting, and to be honest, it doesn't really matter much. This is why you might face levels of disappointment if you are a doomer, especially because the social detachment you have is a result of the lack of a natural impulse that is in line to the culture around you. Now, I say this as someone that is one who always had issues in a social sense and has been gaslit since they were a child. And even recently, I've been gaslit. And I've realized that a lot of the people that gaslight do it on a more subconscious level. You see, people have this idea of people, and it doesn't really mean that they value people as themselves. And this misunderstanding that people have of this concept is where the gaslighting itself begins. Let me explain. So, let's say you meet a chick, okay? Just for example, all right? Just for basic example's sake. You meet a chick, and she's really cool, whatever. Everything's nice and whatever. And she tells you things over time like, "You're not my type, I don't think we're compatible," after telling you things that you're the first person to do X, Y, and Z with her, to care for her in a certain way, all these things. You know what I mean? Just typical, if you're a doomer, you understand, okay? Those kind of typical, you're very, very different, I can't believe you're so kind to me things, but I want someone like this, but not really, because when you're that way, even though you did things completely correctly, you're not my type, so I'm going to find a way that it isn't really, feasible for us to work. But when it comes to Chiron, who is completely quote-unquote manipulative or a bad person, I'll make excuses for that situation, but not even consider you as, the thing I want to be with when I claim I want to be with it. And if you are unwilling to still quote-unquote be friends, aka my emotional tampon/slave, then you lack maturity and you aren't being consistent, because apparently emotions and your reaction should just be mute, or fall in line to a way where you just value that person as themselves in reality when they never valued you in a way which they said they would. And if you question any form of this and how you were BS'd and how it's wrong and you were gaslit, they will get offended because they're gaslighting you, and projection. That is our culture we live in, people, and for me it's called normal reality and just existing. It's been that way for me for a long time, and the pattern honestly is very, very taxing. Matter of fact, when the pattern does not happen, it throws me off at times, but then ultimately, generally, no matter the person, it becomes the same exact routine. That is how it happens. A cycle. In its own right is also a rat race. Another form of this can also be employment. If you're looking for employment in our culture in the West, it's very, 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 very lottery based, and especially on the quote-unquote entry level positions. You see, we live in a culture in which recruiters will reach out to you, right, occasionally, and then ghost you. We live in a culture where you can meet all the qualifications of the application and not even get a rejection letter, where you just sit there and hope that somehow they will at least tell you that we found a better candidate, so you can stop worrying about what happened. And then when you keep trying over and over and over again, being completely, you know, thrown away, ignored, ghosted, and if you express any of these, they say that you are lacking effort. That is how conformists gaslight people, because it's basically I call it the false meritocracy that we live in, where everyone believes that it's solipsistic, just world fallacy, one's own merit as a person. So if bad things happen to you, it's your fault, and if good things happen to me, it's because I'm a good person. Nonsense. Because the reality is this: if you do not have an ounce of Machiavellian here in our culture, you will 100% be a victim of it. You cannot dominate the culture whatsoever. Another thing I've noticed too with our culture when it comes to conformists is that the way that they have perspective on things is that they have this illusion that they are somehow not a conformist, that somehow they are not part of the collective, that somehow they're not neurotypical, that somehow, some way, I have these issues with two people when their phone is not dry. And I realize now that when it comes to countercultures of any shape or form, the new trend is that I am quirky and different, even though that is the new culture itself of what we live in. Everyone wants to feel like an outcast when it's convenient, but when it comes to actually being outcasted, the actual pain of it, all they'll do is gaslight those who are actually gaslit to be the true outcasts. And in my opinion, from my observations over the years, I found that it to just be completely emotionally taxing and pointless affair in which the result is the same. You will never be accepted around you. It's very unfortunate actually, because if you take it all in and understand how the rules at play work accordingly, then you realize how much of it is completely out of your control. Some will say it's biological determinism. I say it's where the external factors meet as well, because one's own actions have a limit. That's the sad truth. If you don't believe that's the case, okay, if what I'm saying is wrong, all right, if what I'm saying is so wrong and that, you're just saying this as nihilistic, complete nonsense, when in reality, if you know my channel, I'm not at all nihilist, then how come, according to looks theory, which is based in reality, which is an extension of our culture, that when men are by themselves and are not deemed, attractive, especially when they're deemed, unattractive, when they're by themselves in, let's say, a more social setting, they're seen as a threat to the culture around them. But when someone has very, very conventional approved features, which they're born with from like lottery, all of a sudden them by themselves as an allure to it, a mysterio of mysterious, presence for doing the exact same thing. I've come to realize over these past years that people just don't want people. People want the ideas of people, like I said earlier. And the idea of they want a people is in a way that's completely based in solipsistic, blue pill, delusional nonsense. They don't understand how it is to be dealing with certain inconveniences because, they're approved by the culture around them. It's crazy. It really is. And that's why I always tell you guys on my channel that you must find employment which will not test one's genetic lottery of external features at the forefront of it, because that risk that is in play will cost you your life. That's why I push on my channel as well, very, 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 very more, some would say masculine, high IQ professions, but even ones that count as purple collar or blue collar, because the truth is those are mostly male dominated places to begin with. So there is no, natural implication that one needs to assimilate with the culture around them. And as we all know from my channel at this point, culture is what the women approve of in relation to men trying to attract them. That's the very, very sad truth. I've noticed this too over the years, that pretty much even when it comes to male friends, that if you are a male that cannot attract the presence of women, other males will either one, not want to be around you, or two, use you as a method of entertainment or a stepping stone for the approval of women around you. And honestly, looking at that entirely as a whole, it just seemed like some kind of weird, inhumane form of amusement. But the thing is, when it comes to all this, the biggest thing is you can never speak on this topic. You really can't. Because if you say things like what you deal with on a regular basis compared to most people, they will just literally add fire to more fire. And then they'll gasoline on that fire. And to be honest with it, all of it pretty much is not worth it to begin with. And that's why, in my case, I don't like being more, some would say, social at all. And being more social has become more of annoyances to me over the years. But thankfully, I learned the ability to be more social when it's convenient. And it's an ability that all must learn if they're less social, so you can know how to be more neurotypical around you. Like being in places where I'm not very, very comfortable, where, exits are kind of, blocked off from me generally, or being in places where, very, very loud noise for no reason, or being in places where I'm physically very, very attached to people and I'm basically trapped by them, or being in places that are completely just full of vanity complexes is just not worth my time or entertainment. But apparently one that does not want to be in these environments where, to be honest with you guys, I'm not really even welcome to begin with. That is what they will call you as lame, or they'll say that you lack a personality, or that you're not fun because you really don't want to waste your time dealing with people that don't even want to be around you. They don't even care to exist, or in the worst case, and God bless your hearts, when you are very, very unattractive, that completely see you as a demon in a place that is somehow, some way, some kind of heaven sanctuary for the more neurotypical, neurogenetic lottery people. That's why one thing I always say to people that are more doomer-based when it comes to the black pill spectrum is that you must understand where you stand with culture. And even if you have a career and you somehow, some way win the genetic lottery in any shape or form, the conformists themselves will act like they have amnesia, and then somehow, in some way, find a way to use your lack of past successes with social cues as a way to use you for emotional entertainment, mental entertainment, or a way that they can just use you in any other kind of form that does not benefit you in even the short run. So it's therefore not worth it at all whatsoever to be around them. Everyone loves you too once you leave them, even the conformists. And what I've noticed over the years, it's very, very sad, especially through my night walks, is that people are more around people at funerals than they are at graduations, at job promotions, at job hirings. And I realize why. It's because they want to use your remains as a way to virtue signal to show some kind of false sense of I cared for them, when in reality they did not at all. And that's the sad black pill truth that you must accept. The life that you can make that is your own is only one that is your own. And you must also understand the cost of it, because the cost can be one's own life. But the sad part is that the cost of it is your own life. You see, the equivalent exchange that we all live in, whether it's, lookism or, IQism, or even things that are just more culturally approved, is that we live in a culture that has complete and utter amnesia in itself. That's why, look at countercultures. Those the same ones that would harass you as a child for liking certain things now are the main ones that try to correct you on certain things which they just got into and act like their entire life they cared about. And to be honest with you guys, that is just part of the culture itself we live in. Another thing when it comes also to conformists is that they try to keep you locked in a cage of false promises and dreams. And I've noticed this a lot, and I mean a lot over the years, because by doing so, it dismisses one's pain of a situation. Case in point, oh, don't worry, when you're older at insert age here, it will get better because insert Y will happen. And when that does not happen, A, they'll say you're doing it wrong. Two, or B, they'll say things like, oh, not yet. Not yet, it's not over yet. Or C, they'll say certain things that completely deflect from the actual reality of the situation itself. That's why you must also understand there's a thin line between tragedies as well as comedies when it comes to one's lives. And that understanding will keep you sane. Another thing when it comes to the culture around you is that they get entertainment out of one's lack of sanity from the lies, manipulation, and just straight up falsehoods they give you. Like, they like seeing you rejected by that girl over and over and over again because it makes them feel better about themselves when they are with someone or they're not with someone. They like seeing you when you cannot graduate classes and always failing in school because when they graduate a class barely, in their mind, they're better than you. They like seeing you go from job to job or not finding a job or just, starting off later in life in a career because when they start off in life ahead of you, they seem more sane and normal. But I tell you guys this all the time, life is a marathon, not a sprint. An example of this is those people themselves will be some of the main ones you'll notice over the years that when they actually, let's say, collapse in themselves, the reality of the situation will be very, very painful for them. An example of this is, I like to say, the early success stories, such as those people that buy the homes at 20, 21, 22, 23, 24-ish, and I mean a home, a single family home, or a luxury apartment, or a luxury condo, whatever. And those people will post their degrees online and all these things, but the reality is, in the darkness of their own trenches, they're in severe ticking time bombs of their own debt. That's why you'll notice in around 5, 6, 7, 8 years or so, those same exact people will not be online, will not post certain things, will sidestep conversations, because the reality is that their castle fell inside themselves. The reality is that the marathon which they were a part of, they acted like it was a sprint, and therefore it all fell apart and they're now in last place. And if you understand this concept, then you will realize that the marathon ends when it ends, and it began when it began. And there are checkpoints for a reason. But do not confuse this with limbo. Limbo is a part of the male experience, and as well as the male reset, which we all will basically go through, especially if you're below that 20 percentile of men. Example of this is that, let's say you are, 18, 19, 20, whatever. You get a degree in, let's say, engineering. And don't be confused, by the way, engineering does not equal security of job placement. So you get an engineering degree, whatever, and get a nice little job, meet a girl, and you fall in love at, let's say, I don't know, let's say 24, whatever, and you buy a house at like 28, 29, whatever, have a child, whatever, and divorced. So when the male is divorced, what happens? He loses everything he worked for to begin with, and now he's out of his car living at best sometimes, or with like 4 roommates, or back with his parents, and the girl keeps the whole house, the children, and the new boyfriend, aka the pool boy, Amazon deliverer, gardener, whatever, occasionally who bones her, or maybe even, some at the same exact time. And the man is blamed for it because he did not do XYZ, even though in many of those cases she was not loyal to begin with. And another reality of this is that if that man were to, try to get his life back in order, he would be battling a complete reset over and over and over again. But that's the reality that we live in, people. It's called the back end of my channel. Now, the Conformists will say that exact same man that lost everything, that he just chose the wrong woman and there's someone out there for everyone. And that he just needs to keep trying and keep on going. And that there's plenty of fish in the sea and other complete delusions. But let's also say that man, of course, what happens as well, gets cut off from his employment and he can no longer pay his alimony. Now he goes to jail and has a record on his actual, name, and leaving the actual, let's say, even country to start his own life again becomes a complete challenge. That's why in places like, let's say, Costa Rica, parts of Africa, parts of Asia, you will find many, many men that are expats, that are illegal expats, that have fake names because they left the entire culture that completely threw them out to begin with. Because they'd rather, leave the country and not see their own children than not actually, be a slave. Hello, chat. Hello, chat. All of you in the chat. I do see you all and I appreciate you all so much for being here, chat. Now, the front end, chat. The front end of our circumstances that we deal with here in our culture of the casino is that the gaslighting is that you're not doing X, Y, and Z correctly to court a woman because you are too picky. You have too high standards in that somehow, some way, it's your fault because insert person here is insert way and always pulls insert girls. But in reality is that very, very elementary way of looking at things is just very, very unnuanced. And let me explain why. You see, the conformist does not want to accept a certain thing called reality. And the conformist mind, the blue pill mind, is one that is one based upon solipsistic forms of weakness. Let me explain what I mean by that. You see, conformists want a lifestyle. And lifestyle to them is everything. The lifestyle that they want is a very, very lucrative, expensive, in old world equals new world way of doing things. They want to travel, they want a nice car, they want all these things, materialistic things. And then those are the same ones that will tell you things such as $20 an hour when they live in, let's say, the South is not that much money to live comfortably. And then you realize that they mean to live comfortably is to do a lot of nonsense. You must understand that as a collective, the reality is one based upon plastic and vanity and just complete weakness. When you realize that their entire illusion is based upon reality TV shows, which are fake, and that they see people that, see through the entire nonsense as fake. They'll say that something is wrong with you. They'll say that you are a downer. They'll say that you're being negative. They'll say that you're not trying hard enough. They'll say that you're having a defeatist mindset. Say that you're being a loser. All these completely gaslighting things. Or that you're trying to be an outsider because they only live in a collected, approved lifestyle. That's the truth. One's ego is its biggest weakness as well versus its own id. But the thing is, you must realize is that why it comes from. The reason why people are this way is because the pain itself of realizing how things actually are is too much for them to bear. That's why you notice even amongst men, okay, they'll always say they always get women and never show you one, the woman they get with, two, admit they have a dry spell publicly, or three, admit that sometimes that they completely jump through hoops. And the reality is this. The reality is that they want to believe that they are part of that top 20 percentile of men. I call it the Fight Club effect, where everyone wants to pretend that they are Tyler Durden until they realize what Tyler Durden actually is. Another concept that many do not want to accept is the myth of male power. The myth of male power is one of their biggest enemies, chat. Power and freedom go hand in hand, chat, and you must understand this. You must understand this. The apex fallacy is one of the main reasons why your mental state is completely ignored by the collective around you. They see the minority of men and assume that the majority of us live that certain kind of way because the majority of us are completely ignored to begin with. The myth of male power is one thing that has for over 100 years been one of our biggest drawbacks, because we cannot accept, we do not even have it at all, because the reality is that men live through the apex as well. A man could be involuntary celibate, but then literally that exact same man could shame other men just like them because they live through men that are the top tier of the apex. That is the truth. Because living through other people is less painful than living in their own plastic reality around them. You must understand that men literally strive for situations in life because we hope to get these careers, work like slaves for a family, for a lifestyle, for social approval, achievement, recognition, when in reality it's not guaranteed at all whatsoever. And you strive for this entire nonsense will be your biggest downfall. When I see men out here who buy these expensive things that they know they can not at all afford for the approval of getting approved by the culture around them, including from other men, what happens to those men is that they're in a cycle of complete, one, lack of sane internally, and two, what they also suffer from is a way that they fall into themselves. This is the reality that you all must live with, chat. You all must live with. And you must value your own freedom over everything. Freedom and power go hand in hand. They do, chat. This is the truth. The lifestyle that many of you guys want to have is your biggest weakness. And the reality is that the conformists themselves are the majority of people, and I'm talking about at least 90% of people, including those quote-unquote alpha men. That's why they peacock for a reason. The peacocking is to get approval from other men and lead them on a way that they can look at themselves as better. It's the exact same way that they misunderstand certain cinema, again, such as Fight Club. Chat, what you must also understand is that you are on your own. You are on your own. When your family passes, especially your core family, you are on your own and you must prepare yourself for that day. When a bird is pushed out the cage with no wings, it will completely fall and collapse. And I don't mean with broken wings, I mean with no wings, as in it can't even begin to have the day to fly. But even the bird born with no wings is treated the exact same as a bird born that can fly with ease. Do not forget this. The life that we want to live sometimes is our biggest enemy, because the conformists push us to that lifestyle because they want us to go in the rat race of our own suffering. And the more night walk that you take in your own city, if you can, that is, it's safe enough to do so. Your night walks will provide you more clarity, because you will realize that how much of the world around you in our culture lie to you. The lie of the culture around you is the main root of your depression. That's the truth. We're told as children we can be whatever we want to be, except like that. We're told to be ourselves, except like that. We're told to follow our dreams, except when those dreams themselves are our clutches. They keep us asleep. What use is having a dream when you are always asleep? What use is there having dreams when the dreams themselves have no clear pathway? But then I realize is that these dream people have are their own forms of copes and delusions. That's why in our culture especially, you notice that they will shame people that literally have a strong long-term plan. But in other cultures that are not our own, other circumstances are seen as more intelligent. For example, I use this example all the time. In the West, you have a lot of people that are Asian that come here, like Koreans. Koreans come here all the time, for example. And those Koreans, what they will do is they will have their family here, okay? They will hard save freaking money till they're like 27, 28 with their family, and then start a business without any at all debt. You must understand that they want to push you out a nest with a plan, because they want you to struggle for their entertainment. They look at you less in a way, but they would not show their own skeletons in their own closet. Because the truth is, those skeletons in their closet is their dead dreams. Their dead dreams are in their closets. Do not forget this. Do not forget this. So when their dead dreams are in their closets, what is their outcome? Their outcome is to have something to hold on to. And what they hold on to is shaming those people who are not approved by the collective. That's why they use you as a baseline, as someone to bounce off of to make themselves feel better. Because if you were not there as entertainment, then they would have to live with the skeletons in their closet, which comes from themselves. That's the truth. And that's why they gaslight you. That's why they gaslight you. The gaslighting is a way to keep you insane, to keep you miserable, to keep you either to fall in line or to keep you as a baseline to make themselves feel better. That is it. But the thing is, at what cost is it? At what cost is it? I see people all the time who have with children, and the kids that they have, their children they have, whatever. Okay, these same exact people are calling people losers when in reality they can barely take care of their own freaking children, and they're much older than me. And when they're my age, they were doing way worse things. That's the reality we live in. Our reality is one that's based upon delusion. This is the same reason why. The same reason why, people, you must understand. They want to also, if you have lack of romantic success, put it on you because of that false sense of control. Do not forget that people value people not as themselves, but as ideals, as characters. They value people in a way that is, one would say, plastic. Like, in my case, for example, I'm seen more as a pet to people and not actually a person. And what I've realized is that for me is normal. What you must also accept is that to get one to accept that they treat you as a pet will never freaking happen. It won't happen. Because to accept that they treat you as a pet puts them in line with saying that they treat you horribly. That is the truth. And when you're mistreated by people, they expect you to not act out in a way that is completely emotionally viable. For example, let's say you are looking for employment, okay? And you and the recruiter, whatever, okay? You and the recruiter are emailing back and forth. Okay, just for example. And the recruiter out of nowhere just ghosts you. All right, ghosted. Even though the interviews went very, very well, whatever, and you obviously took, I don't know, 30-minute drive-ish and such. For example. When they ghost you, and you know these bills ain't free, what is the correct emotional response that you would have? You would feel depressed, let down, all these things. But the culture wants you to act like you have all these options out there. That's not, a big deal. Like you didn't spend a week or so preparation-wise. Like it didn't go well. Like you're not locked out of your own future. Like your own future is not dependent on having that pathway open. They want you to just accept the reality, or lack of thereof, that you are locked out of your own life because of another person or party. And that your emotions that you have, those feelings that you have, whatever, okay, aren't a big deal. They just chose somewhere ever, you know what I mean. The worst, though, that we all know is when it goes well and it all goes wrong still. When it all goes well and it still goes wrong, that somehow, some way, even though you hit every single correct step in the correct direction, it still goes wrong and you are still trapped out of your life, out of your future, because the hand of it is in another party. You don't have control over your life. Your life is a series of being controlled by other people until you have something that flips it on your behalf. That is the truth. That is the truth. And another sad part is, for example, let's say you're in college. Just for example, okay? Just for example. Because people, I love examples, everyone. When you are in a university, okay, and let's say, just for example, there's a mistake on the professor's end, you cannot get that change. You're now locked out of your future. Or an even better example, okay? How many of you have seen an internship require years of experience? Just for example. Then the collective will tell you that you should have got an internship to get experience when the job requires experience, which makes no sense. And by the way, in school counts as experience in theory, but that's what I mean by the delusions of the culture. The conformists will tell you you should have got experience for the employment before you graduated college, but while in college, they want you to have a perfect GPA, by the way, a 3.8 GPA, for an unpaid opportunity with years of experience for an internship, knowing damn well that you will lack experience. This is why I mean that you are locked out of your future. And the conformists will tell you that somehow, some way, you did not try hard enough. You did not try hard enough. when a delusion is just there? If there's all these options out there for our futures, then how come what happens when the person is locked out of 1, 2, 3, 4 things and they're the only options they have for their future? Then what happens? What happens then? Or even worse, what if someone tells you the wrong information about a situation and now you are prepared poorly? When you are prepared poorly in life, that will cost you time. And it will cost you time. And people, you must understand, time is the most expensive thing you can cost to you over everything. Time is worth more today than it is tomorrow. That's a fact. People, listen. When they set you up poorly, okay, on purpose, sometimes too, they will never take accountability of their actions to lying to you. The conformist will then gaslight you to make it seem like you're the problem. Because in the conformist mind, okay, they're irrational nonsense. They're complete delusions, okay? There's completely bad taste in people, for example. It is quote unquote normal. And we do everything correctly, okay? It's lack of compatibility, which proves to begin with they did not want to be with someone like you or have someone like you in that environment. That's a fact. And when you say this out loud, okay, all of a sudden, you're being extreme. All of a sudden, okay, all of a sudden, you're overreacting. All of a sudden, you're causing drama for literally saying the reality of a situation. That's the truth. That's the truth. They prepare you poorly so that you fail. They prepare you poorly so that you fail. But you fail. People, you must understand what the cost is. The cost is your life. It's your life. It's personal. It's you. The cost is your life. And you do not get that back at all. Why do you think the conformists, it's never enough for them? Never enough. Never enough. They will always raise the bar higher when you reach certain points. They always will. Always will. You gotta understand, people, the conformists will always raise the bar higher, move the goalpost. Because when you reach a certain level about to win, they want to make sure that you do not at all get to a certain point. That's the point of what they're doing, is to give you that false sense of hope. And hope is a prison. Hope is a prison. It is. Hope is the thing, not faith, hope. Big difference. Hope holds you in the cage and has, in a way, spun your mind to where you now believe that you can escape the cage from your own validity without a key. Hope is the thing that spins. Hope is the maze in the rat race. Hope is the number one thing that has led to your disappointment. To be hopeful is to have delusion, but to be faithful is to be rational. These are not the same thing, people. They're not. You must have faith, not hope. To have hope is to be, in a way, put up so high, then dropped over and over and over and over again. Hope is the thing that killed Icarus. Killed Icarus. Hope and hope go together for a reason, because hope and hold together keep you trapped. You cannot grow from hope at all. You can't, because hope is designed to keep you at a certain level. It is, but faith comes from one's own actions, not the actions of other people. Big difference. Big difference. That's why when people say they have faith in you, it's out of response of seeing your actions of consistent successes. Big difference. Big difference. Life is a series of complete, utter, rigged casino games for a reason. The culture we live in is very, very plasticky. Very, very, I would say low value when it comes to people. And as someone that has dealt with this nonsense we live in for a very long time, okay? I understand why guys want to hold on to these things. Because to hold on to certain things, okay, because remember, hold on, hope, go together. It keeps them in a way, in a very, very passive, easygoing sense. Every motion that you take must be with a long-term plan. Every motion that you take must come with the long-term plan. All big things come from little things. You know? Do not forget that. Matter of fact, you must realize the cost of your own life. What is the cost of your life to the conformist, people? What is the cost of your life to the conformist? The cost of your life to the conformist is for them to get ahead. The cost of your life to the conformist is for them to get ahead at the expense of you. not with you, at the expense of you. So that means they put your life in exchange for their own progression. And when they do that, you get left behind in the cycle of confusion. And that's why you get gaslit. The same concept also applies, of course, with romantic intentions. People, you must understand, chat. To be used as emotional grief and entertainment and some kind of way of just ventilation is complete, I would argue, emotional manipulation, emotional in some ways trauma. Because they will always feed you the false seeds of hope to keep you around. Even though you're completely unrequited, and they know this, and that's why they 180'd, is to help you, to help themselves fill a void internally at the expense of you. And when you mention it to the other party, what do they say you're doing? They're saying you're being childish, overreacting, extreme, all these things which completely gaslight you. That's why they gaslight you, to make themselves feel better, to make themselves avoid their own accountability, to make themselves face themselves, because to admit that they're shitty behind people is too much effort for them. Too many people, what I've noticed is that they believe they're good people because of the things they do for you. They think that courtesy is the same as kindness. They think that courtesy is the same as care. It's about sacrifice. Sacrifice is how you form a care for someone else. That's the truth. The truth. If that person does not sacrifice for you, they do not care about you and value you as a person. Big difference. Sacrifice and loyalty go together. That's the truth. That's the truth. So the courtesy they have for you is the same again as an animal, a dog. They do not see you as another human being. Do not forget this. Do not forget this. Conformists also forget one more thing. Conformists do not understand the difference between solitude and being lonely whatsoever. You see, you must have your place of solitude to heal. Solitude will make you heal. Because when you are in your place of solitude, your mind is clear. You're not blinded by external influences which will make a way to make you feel more traumatized. But to be lonely is to be abandoned. Okay? To feel lonely. Loneliness is a form of abandonment by people. It's to be thrown out. of Elysium is to be put in a cage, put in a shelf. Despite what you've done for people, big difference. Big difference. To be put in a cage when you're already empty will not make you recharge. What it will do is completely break you down in a way where you can never correctly heal. Because the way that the human experience works and operates is that the end result of one being completely traumatized by abandonment by other people create situations of male death at the expense of their own. That's the truth. I am Morpheus, aka the base Pluto. In the Fellowship, aka the base Brotherhood. Take the white pill and black pill daily.